Los Angeles, 1946. The city shimmered under a golden haze, palm trees swaying along sun-scorched boulevards, while the Hollywood sign watched over the sprawling metropolis like a silent sentinel. To the outside world, it was a city of opportunity, where dreams could materialize overnight, where movie stars walked the streets, and where ambition alone could pave the path to fame. But beneath the glittering veneer lay shadows, dark alleyways, smoky nightclubs, and streets where desperation and danger prowled unseen. Elizabeth Short arrived in Los Angeles in the spring of 1946, a young woman of 22 with wide, searching eyes and a heart brimming with hope. Her life before this had been marked by hardship and movement, a childhood in Massachusetts, teenage struggles that led her across the country, and the loss of a sense of stability that haunted her even in moments of excitement. But in Los Angeles, she imagined a new life, one full of glamour and possibility, a life that the city promised but rarely delivered. She was striking, even in a crowd. Her dark hair framed a pale, expressive face, her eyes revealing both curiosity and a vulnerability that drew people in. She carried herself with the mix of confidence and uncertainty typical of someone navigating the unfamiliar streets of a city that demanded both courage and caution. Elizabeth's charm was magnetic, yet beneath it simmered a deep loneliness. She had friends, fleeting companions, and casual acquaintances, but she often found herself alone, wandering the city streets late at night, thinking about the future she longed to claim. The post-war city was a paradox, bright lights and dark corners. Los Angeles was booming, the war had ended, the economy was recovering, and there was a sense of optimism in the air. Yet for women like Elizabeth, the city offered opportunities alongside peril. Hollywood's glamour was intoxicating, promising fame, beauty, and wealth, but its underbelly was ruthless. Bars and nightclubs, where aspiring actresses sought connections, teemed with men whose intentions were rarely pure. Elizabeth, drawn by both ambition and naivety, often found herself navigating a treacherous line between hope and danger. Her days were a series of small, exhausting battles. She bounced between temporary jobs, sometimes in offices, sometimes waiting tables, always chasing enough money to afford rent and clothing that would allow her to fit into the city's elite social circles. At night, she attended parties, hoping to meet someone who could guide her toward her dream of Hollywood stardom. She was a familiar figure in the downtown clubs, known for her laughter, her willingness to listen, and the ease with which she could charm strangers into conversation. Yet even in the laughter and music, there was an edge of uncertainty, an awareness that the city could just as easily swallow her as reward her. Elizabeth's friends noticed her restlessness. She would disappear for days without explanation, returning with stories that were vague, sometimes contradictory. She spoke of men who promised opportunities and vanished, of encounters that left her exhilarated but uneasy. There were whispers among her friends about the city's darker elements, petty criminals, aggressive men, and a society where young women alone were vulnerable. Elizabeth acknowledged these risks with a blend of defiance and naivety. She wanted to believe she was untouchable, that her charm and wits would protect her, but in truth, she was navigating a world that was both thrilling and perilous, a world in which one wrong decision could have catastrophic consequences. It was not just the external dangers that haunted her. Elizabeth also struggled with an internal restlessness. She had dreams of fame, yes, but also of belonging, of finding a place where her life had meaning beyond survival. She kept journals and letters, small fragments of a life she hoped would someday make sense. These writings, filled with ambition and longing, revealed a young woman aware of her vulnerability, yet unwilling to surrender her dreams. She was a study in contradictions, brave yet cautious, charming yet lonely, hopeful yet aware that the city could devour her. By late 1946, Elizabeth had made herself a minor figure in the city's social landscape. She frequented cafes and diners, met aspiring actors and writers, and became acquainted with the fringe of Hollywood society. It was a precarious existence, balanced between ambition and exposure, and she was constantly negotiating how much of herself to reveal to the world. But Los Angeles was a city of illusions, and appearances often concealed danger. Each night brought the same mixture of excitement and fear, each encounter a potential opportunity or threat. The narrative builds tension as the city itself becomes a character, alive, seductive, and menacing. The streets, the neon signs, and the quiet neighborhoods each hint at stories untold, secrets waiting in the shadows. Elizabeth's journey through these spaces is both literal and metaphorical. She moves through the city searching for fame, security, and a sense of identity, unaware of the tragic convergence awaiting her. As December approached, Elizabeth's life continued in a fragile rhythm, days filled with small victories and disappointments, nights with laughter and fleeting companionships. But the city's shadows were closing in, their presence almost imperceptible yet inevitable. There were hints of danger, a stranger who lingered too long, a bar that seemed too empty, a promise too easily made and broken. For Elizabeth, the line between hope and peril was thinning, and the city's glittering exterior could no longer mask the darkness beneath. In these final weeks before the tragedy, Elizabeth's story captures the audience's empathy. She is not just a victim in the making, she is a fully realized character, with dreams, flaws, and desires that resonate universally. The tension escalates as her choices, driven by ambition and loneliness, place her in a position where the city's lurking dangers could finally intersect with her life. By the end of Part 1, the audience understands Elizabeth Short as more than a name in a headline. She is a young woman navigating a treacherous city with courage, charm, and vulnerability. Los Angeles is both her playground and her trap, a city that promises everything, yet protects nothing. And the stage is set for the horror that will shake the city, the nation, and generations to come. A murder so shocking it will be remembered forever, and a life cut tragically short in the shadows of ambition and despair. The morning of January 15, 1947, dawned cold and gray over Los Angeles, unusual for a city usually bathed in golden sunshine. A resident walking his dog through a vacant lot in the Leimert Park neighborhood paused at an unsettling sight. At first, he thought it was a discarded mannequin or a pile of clothes, but as he drew closer, the horror became undeniable. Lying in the dirt, posed unnaturally, was a young woman, her skin pale and frozen, her body grotesquely mutilated. The city's darkest whispers had become reality. News of the discovery spread like wildfire. Los Angeles froze. Reporters arrived almost immediately, cameras in hand, eager to capture the shocking scene. The public, hungry for both news and spectacle, followed every detail with morbid fascination. It wasn't long before the papers christened the victim the Black Dahlia, a nickname inspired by a recent film and the media's penchant for sensationalism. Overnight, Elizabeth Short became more than a young woman with dreams. She became a symbol of horror, an enigma, and the face of the city's nightmares. Detectives arrived quickly, their faces etched with grim determination. Los Angeles Police Department officers cordoned off the area, careful not to disturb evidence, though the nature of the crime left little room for optimism. Detective Harry Hansen, one of the lead investigators, recalled the scene as one of the most chilling of his career. The body sliced with surgical precision, drained of blood, and posed with a grotesque symmetry. It was a level of brutality that left even seasoned officers shaken. Forensic science in 1947 was rudimentary by today's standards. Detectives meticulously examined the site, looking for fingerprints, footprints, or witnesses who might have glimpsed the killer. They cataloged every detail: the position of the limbs, the condition of the clothing, the lack of defensive wounds. And yet each observation deepened the mystery rather than illuminating it. There were no clear leads, no signs of forced entry, no obvious suspects. The city had become a puzzle, and the pieces refused to fit together. Meanwhile, the media frenzy escalated. Journalists and photographers flooded the city, competing to deliver the most shocking images and headlines. Papers published lurid descriptions of Elizabeth's death, speculation about the identity of her killer, and conjecture about her life. Every detail, her friends, her relationships, her ambitions, was dissected for public consumption. Letters arrived at police headquarters, some claiming to be from the murderer, others offering tips that ranged from helpful to bizarre. The public was obsessed, unable to turn away from the horror, and the city's collective anxiety intensified. Elizabeth's friends and family were thrust into the media spotlight, grappling with grief while being scrutinized for the minutiae of her life. Neighbors and acquaintances were interviewed, their recollections often conflicting or vague, adding to the cacophony of misinformation. In cafes and offices across Los Angeles, citizens speculated about motives, suspects, and the shadowy forces lurking in the city's underbelly. The story became more than a murder. It was a mirror reflecting the city's fears, fascinations, and fascination with tragedy. Detectives worked tirelessly, interviewing anyone who might have known Elizabeth or seen something unusual. They spoke with taxi drivers, doormen, store clerks, and hotel managers. Each conversation brought hints of possible connections: an enigmatic stranger at a party, a man seen trailing her, a brief argument overheard, but all leads dissolved into dead ends. Every clue seemed to deepen the mystery rather than illuminating it. There were no clear leads, no signs of forced entry, no obvious suspects. The city had become a puzzle, and the pieces refused to fit together. The media frenzy also illuminated the limitations of the era. Police had few tools to track movements or uncover hidden relationships. No modern databases or forensic methods existed to help piece together the final hours of Elizabeth's life. Every lead required legwork, intuition, and interviews, methods prone to human error. The detectives faced not only the brutality of the crime, but also the immense challenge of navigating a city resistant to easy answers. Amid the chaos, the figure of Elizabeth Short loomed large in the public imagination. She was no longer just a victim. She became a story, a cautionary tale of ambition, loneliness, and the dangers hidden in Los Angeles's bright lights. Newspapers ran detailed profiles of her life, often mixing fact and fiction, portraying her alternately as a starlet, a socialite, and a vulnerable young woman caught in circumstances beyond her control. The fascination bordered on obsession, and the city could not look away. The Black Dahlia murder also marked a turning point in Los Angeles's self-perception. Citizens realized that the City of Dreams was also a city capable of unspeakable horror. The crime shattered illusions of safety and glamour, revealing the city's darker, hidden veins. It was a moment when optimism collided with tragedy, and the reality of human cruelty became undeniable. By the end of the week, the shock had transformed into a relentless curiosity. Elizabeth's life and death were dissected endlessly, her story told and retold in homes, offices, and newspapers across the country. The city itself seemed to hold its breath, aware that this murder was unlike anything it had witnessed. And while detectives continued their work, chasing elusive leads and shadowy figures, the audience, both within the story and beyond, was drawn deeper into the enigma of the Black Dahlia, compelled to follow each twist, each rumor, and each dead end. Part 2 closes with a city suspended between horror and fascination, a victim immortalized by both tragedy and sensationalism, and an investigation that has just begun. The stage is set for suspects to emerge, for theories to swirl, and for the chilling reality of human darkness to unfold. The audience is left breathless, craving answers that the city and the crime itself may never provide. The city was on edge. Los Angeles, still reeling from the discovery of Elizabeth Short's mutilated body, had become a pressure cooker of fear, fascination, and obsession. Every dark alley, every lonely street corner seemed to harbor the unknown. As detectives delved deeper into the case, they found themselves navigating a labyrinth of leads that promised answers but delivered only frustration. The investigation quickly produced a long list of potential suspects, each more tantalizing and terrifying than the last. Men Elizabeth had known, fleeting acquaintances, strangers seen at parties or cafes, all were scrutinized under a relentless microscope. One of the earliest leads involved a transient man seen near her last known location. He had a suspicious demeanor, and rumors suggested he had crossed paths with other women who had gone missing. Yet, as the police pursued him, alibis surfaced, contradictions were resolved, and suspicion evaporated. Hollywood figures became the next focus. In a city where ambition and vice were inseparable, detectives explored connections between Elizabeth and actors, producers, and men on the fringes of the industry. Some leads were plausible, whispered rumors of secret rendezvous, men with criminal pasts, and individuals who had expressed intense interest in young women seeking fame. Yet each investigation ended in dead ends, the suspects cleared, leaving only the gnawing tension of unresolved horror. Complicating matters was the media itself. Newspapers sensationalized every development, blurring the line between fact and fiction. Every theory, no matter how implausible, became public fodder. Letters allegedly from the killer flooded the LAPD headquarters. Some were cryptic and chilling, filled with arrogance and cruelty. Others were hoaxes, written by pranksters or attention seekers. The detectives had to sift through hundreds of such messages, knowing that somewhere among them could be a genuine confession or an elaborate deception. The city's obsession with the Black Dahlia intensified. Citizens speculated endlessly about motives. Was it a crime of passion, revenge, or a deliberate act of malice? In cafes, diners, and offices, people whispered about secret letters, mysterious men, and possible connections to organized crime. Every rumor became a thread in the tapestry of fear that enveloped Los Angeles. Detectives, weighed down by public pressure, found themselves trapped between chasing leads and maintaining professional caution. Among the suspects was a man who had known Elizabeth socially, a charming, persuasive figure with a shadowy past. He had been linked to other crimes and was known to pursue young women aggressively. His proximity to Elizabeth and his criminal record made him a person of interest. Yet, upon closer examination, no concrete evidence tied him to the murder. Fingerprints, alibis, and witness statements all conflicted, leaving investigators with suspicion but no proof. Another suspect was a figure from Elizabeth's transient lifestyle, a man who had crossed paths with her in hotels and bars. He had a violent reputation and seemed capable of brutality. Detectives interviewed him repeatedly, yet each interrogation ended inconclusively. The man was evasive but not overtly guilty. Without physical evidence or a witness willing to testify, the lead dissolved like smoke, leaving the detectives frustrated and exhausted. As days turned to weeks, theories multiplied. Some investigators proposed a crime of passion, suggesting Elizabeth had been targeted due to a romantic entanglement gone wrong. Others believed the murder bore signs of ritualistic planning, the precision of the mutilation suggesting someone methodical, perhaps even psychopathic. The contrast between her public persona, a hopeful, ambitious young woman, and the grotesque nature of her death intensified the fascination. The city could not reconcile the glamour with the horror, fueling endless speculation. The press amplified these theories. Headlines alternated between sensational claims and moralistic warnings. Hollywood's dark side exposed. The young starlet lost to shadows. Who is the Black Dahlia killer? Reporters camped outside police stations, journalists interviewed friends and acquaintances, and citizens wrote letters offering tips, some of which were genuine, others deliberately misleading. Every rumor, every letter, every fleeting lead became part of a growing storm of confusion. Meanwhile, detectives struggled with their own doubts. They questioned witnesses repeatedly, chased tips from distant cities, and even attempted early forms of psychological profiling, methods primitive by today's standards. The investigation demanded patience, intelligence, and instinct, yet progress was maddeningly slow. Some days produced hope, only to have it crushed by contradictory evidence. The case became a test not just of skill, but of endurance, as officers worked around the clock in a city that was both a playground and a cage. The human cost of the investigation was evident. Elizabeth's family, already devastated, endured relentless scrutiny. Friends were interviewed again and again, their statements dissected by both police and press. Some relationships were portrayed negatively in the media, fueling further public judgment. In a city obsessed with the story, everyone connected to Elizabeth became a character in a drama they never chose to join. Despite the exhaustive efforts, the case produced no resolution. Suspects were cleared, leads dried up, and the city's collective fascination grew even more intense. Every dead end added a sense of mystery, making the crime seem almost mythical. It became a story not only about a murder, but about the limits of human understanding and the darkness that can lurk in even the most hopeful places. Part 3 also explores the psychological landscape, the fear, obsession, and compulsion of those involved. Detectives wrestled with frustration and despair, the media thrived on uncertainty, and the citizens of Los Angeles lived in a city suddenly transformed by terror. The lines between justice, speculation, and voyeurism blurred, creating a tension that gripped everyone who encountered the story. By the end of this part, the Black Dahlia murder had become more than a criminal case. It was a reflection of Los Angeles itself, a city of dreams shadowed by darkness, of ambition threatened by cruelty, and a fascination intertwined with horror. The audience is left with questions, suspense, and the haunting realization that not every crime has closure, not every truth is revealed, and some mysteries endure, defying investigation and understanding. Part 3 closes with detectives staring at blank files, photographs, and scribbled notes, aware that the case might never be solved. Suspects, theories, and rumors swirl around them like a storm, and the audience, along with the city, is left to confront the chilling reality. Elizabeth Short's murder is unsolved, and the darkness that took her life continues to haunt the streets of Los Angeles. Years turned into decades, but the murder of Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, remained an unsolved enigma. Los Angeles, a city that once sparkled with post-war optimism, had been indelibly marked by one of its darkest and most infamous crimes. For detectives, journalists, and citizens alike, the case became more than a search for a killer. It became a symbol of mystery, obsession, and the fragility of life in a city of illusions. For the police, the Black Dahlia case was a constant reminder of both their limitations and the complexity of human cruelty. Detectives like Harry Hansen and Finis Brown, who had devoted months of tireless work to the investigation, were haunted by questions that could not be answered. Every interview, every letter, every dead-end suspect replayed endlessly in their minds. The frustration of knowing that the killer might walk freely, that justice might never be served, weighed heavily. Some officers retired carrying the story like a scar. Others remained consumed by the possibility that a clue had been overlooked. The public, too, never forgot Elizabeth Short. She became more than a murder victim. She became a symbol of the dangers hidden behind the glamour of Los Angeles. Books, films, and documentaries kept her story alive, transforming the tragedy into cultural lore. Writers dissected her life, analyzing her relationships, ambitions, and the circumstances that had left her vulnerable. Hollywood, once a beacon of dreams, was forever tainted by the reminder that beneath the glitter lay shadows capable of monstrous acts. The fascination with the Black Dahlia was fueled by the gaps in the investigation. Unlike crimes solved swiftly and conclusively, this murder offered no neat resolution. Suspects were cleared, leads faded, and every theory sparked new speculation. Was it a crime of passion? Was it the act of a serial offender? Was Elizabeth's death random or meticulously planned? Each unanswered question deepened the mystery, making the case a cultural obsession that would endure for generations. Letters, journal entries, and police reports became artifacts of a city grappling with its own darkness. Psychologists, criminologists, and amateur sleuths attempted to reconstruct the killer's mindset, analyzing patterns, motives, and the terrifying precision of the crime. Some theorized that the murderer was methodical, meticulous, and remorseless, a predator who had exploited the vulnerability of a young woman in pursuit of control. Others speculated on personal motives, imagining entanglements of love, jealousy, or revenge. Yet all remained hypotheses, hauntingly plausible but never proven. Elizabeth Short herself became immortalized through the lens of tragedy and myth. She was no longer just a woman whose life was stolen. She became a figure whose story revealed the intersection of innocence, ambition, and violence. Her dreams of stardom, her charm, and her lonely nights wandering Los Angeles streets became a mirror for the city itself, a metropolis of hope and peril, of light and darkness, of promise and destruction. In remembering Elizabeth, the city remembered both its allure and its dangers. The Black Dahlia case also transformed the way Los Angeles, and eventually the nation, viewed crime. It marked a shift towards sensationalized media coverage, the idea that some murders could capture public imagination in ways that went beyond mere reporting. The gruesomeness of the crime, the mystery surrounding the victim, and the inability of law enforcement to solve it combined to create a narrative that blurred the line between reality and legend. Readers and audiences were drawn not just to the crime itself, but to the psychological tension, the fear, and the unanswered questions. Over time, amateur detectives, historians, and writers continued to probe the case. Books analyzed every detail, from Elizabeth's last days to the letters sent to the LAPD. Documentaries reconstructed the crime scene, attempting to fill the void left by the investigation's limitations. True crime enthusiasts examined every facet, theorizing about suspects and motives, forever chasing a resolution that remained just out of reach. Even today, decades later, curiosity about the Black Dahlia murder persists, a testament to the enduring power of unresolved tragedy. Yet, amid the fascination, there is a human story that is sometimes lost. Elizabeth Short as a young woman with ambitions, fears, and dreams. Her life was vibrant, full of small victories and missteps, laughter and loneliness. Her death, though horrific, should not overshadow the person she was, the young woman navigating a perilous city, daring to dream, daring to hope. The narrative invites the audience to see Elizabeth not just as a victim or a legend, but as a fully human figure whose life mattered beyond the crime. In remembering the Black Dahlia, the city also confronts its own shadows. Los Angeles is forever a place of duality, glamour and decay, ambition and danger, hope and despair. Elizabeth's murder exposed the thin line between these worlds, revealing how quickly dreams could collide with horror. It is a story that endures because it captures the essence of human fascination with the unknown, the thrill and fear of mystery, and the enduring question of why some crimes remain unsolved. By the end of Part 4, the audience is left with a profound sense of reflection. The Black Dahlia murder is a reminder of both the fragility and resilience of life, the allure and peril of ambition, and the shadows that exist even in cities of light. Elizabeth Short's story endures, a haunting presence in Los Angeles history, a testament to a young woman whose life and untimely death continues to captivate, horrify, and mystify. Though decades have passed, the city itself seems to hold its breath when the story is told. The empty lots, the neon signs, the quiet streets, each whispers of a crime unsolved, of a life taken too soon, and of a mystery that refuses to fade. Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, remains both a memory and a legend, forever entwined with the city that witnessed her dreams and her death. And for those who follow her story, there is no resolution, only the enduring tension between curiosity, horror, and the haunting reality that some questions may never be answered.